So thanks again for joining us, and I'm going to hand over to our wonderful resident media expert, Simone Smith. And once Simone starts, I'm going to get you guys to just turn off your cameras and remember to keep yourselves on mute while we're going. Thanks, Simone.
Morning, everybody. Thanks for coming back. I really appreciate it. We've got a fair bit to fill up today with, so we'll get straight into it. And I'll just share my screen. Bear with me. Let's work. Fabulous. Can everyone see that?
No, you need to press OK.
Oh, what have I pressed? Yeah. Oh, hang on. Share, that would help. No. Can you see that now?
Well done. Yep, all good.
Fabulous. Sorry, I've had technical issues. I'm hotspotting off my phone this morning, and last week I buggered up my slide share, something shocking. So bear with me. All right, welcome. I just want to say thanks again to the sponsors and the Colt Fund Management, Landscape South Australia, for supporting this session. So let's get right into it. There's a fair bit to get through today. We're going to do a homework review to start with. Then we're going to look at social media, smartphone photography, and I put an extra in because I had a query at the end of last session about communicating what we call complex issues. So I've just put a slide in to address that. Again, feel free to give me a bell after or ask a question during the session. Happy to answer, as they come up. So thank you for everybody who sent through their homework. I hope it was a good exercise for you. To me, it was obvious that some people had actually everybody had picked up on different tips and tricks from last session. I was really pleased to see the different take each person had on the same task. And that's the thing I really particularly like about writing and communicating is there's no right, there's no wrong. It's just what it is. And so I've put a few different examples here. But the first one is, good, well done to the guys that picked up that there was no contact information on it. It was sort of like a booby trap I put in there. Contact information, super important to get it right, especially if you're promoting something or selling something or whatever. So thanks to the guys who popped that in. There was some absolutely amazing hooks. I've got a couple of examples on the screen there. The first one went straight for the money angle, loved it. No one wants to throw time, money or effort out the window. And yeah, and then they went with, who's telling me that I could be doing that? It's someone with credibility, a local animal nutritionist. So that was great. The second one is a hook with questions. Love questions. It really engages a reader, works really well. Also the term of your silage. So it brings you into it, brings the reader into it. Questions are a great, what I call cheats trick to get a hook. So that was super, super well done. But the key really is to mix up your hooks with each article you write, approach it very differently, and people did really well with that. There was lovely, clear, short, sharp sentences. I thought it went really, really well. Clear sentences, there was no mixing up of ideas and it gets the point across well. That was the bonus of that. Love the breaking up of ideas. Some people get tempted to put them together, but what I've done here is I've highlighted the use of contractors will also be debated at the bottom of this, purely because, so many people would be tempted to put that entire sentence together in one, but this person didn't. They broke it up and I thought it was absolutely fabulous. So well done. Clear, short, sharp, shiny. Brilliant. Layout. There were some really great choices with layout, including someone who sent through it with a box in a colour, which would be great if it was on a flyer or a poster or whatever. Really made the details stand out, so that was brilliant. The two examples I have there of this slide, the one I've highlighted in the red, I really like this because it just says silage, pit or bale, question mark. 3 of my favourite things, not silage. Short, simple sentence with a dot point. Really, really clear communication. Well done. Sorry. There was only one homework person who submitted some homework task that actually added something from their own experience to the slide. This writer used, their experience and observation to add to the press release, and it was that early spring is a great time to consider using improvements in silage technology and learn from experts. Like, silage is the perfect time. Everybody's thinking about, spring is the perfect time. Everybody's thinking about silage during spring. This observation here could also be used as a hook. It wasn't in this time, but, it could easily be, the start of the press release or article. Simple language. I've highlighted here the use of the word join. I loved the person who put join in here. Personally, I hadn't even thought of that myself, but one word says so much. Simple language. That's why I've highlighted it and brought it to everybody's attention. It's clear, simple language, it's the key, and it was brilliant. Thank you. Just a couple of suggestions. I just want to really stress that if you have 2 ideas, please don't put them in the same sentence. One idea, one sentence, another idea, another sentence, okay? Try not to confuse the 2. Short, sharp, shiny sentences are the best. Also, some people, do need to refine the hook. The thing that actually draws the person into reading that piece of communication. That's fine, because there's so many people who communicate, or journalists or whatever for a living, who what they call bury the lead. They don't get the hook. So it's something that comes with practice. But, if in doubt, go back to the sheets from the last session, which is, look for the money, look for the why, the how, the when, the where, all those things, and that'll help you get to the hook. The other thing I really wanted to stress, and it came across quite a bit, was that we've got to make sure we keep the itty-bitty details right down to the bottom of the communication, and make the use of the term, terms such as, the general words like next month, next week, in the southeast, or, just make it really, really general, because too much detail doesn't look nice when you're looking at it at the top, and also takes away from the general what you're trying to get across. But otherwise, I thought it was really good, and I saw so much come through that we worked on, so I was really, really pleased. Okay, today we've got heaps to get through, but again, we're going to concentrate on tangible, practical skills, things that, you can go home or, go to work and you can do them straight away, basically. So social media will be a huge focus. It's going to take up the first part, and a lot of it will be drawing on stuff that we did in the first session, which is why the first session was first, because that's basically the foundation. Then we're going to have a break for a quick, cuppa or whatever, a stretch, and then we will be chatting about smartphone photography. So the idea of social media might have some people feeling a little bit overwhelmed, as per this picture. But this picture doesn't even have all the social media networking sites or anything on it. But when you actually Google social media overwhelm images, so much comes up. It's like burnout, breakdown, bombardment. It's like a synonym-filled day. But it doesn't actually have to be like this. And social media can be A, fun, and B, have heaps of benefits to a business or organisation. And it's pretty much, probably the biggest one that's not even reflected in this picture is the fact that you have control. And I want to start by talking about that using possibly one of the most famous social media users. Like him or loathe him, control is not only one of, it's probably the most important reason why US President Donald Trump uses social media. He controls his message. He doesn't have to rely on the media or anybody else filtering it between him and what people who follow him say. So, sure, he can't control any commentary around it. He can't control the context it's used in or anything, but what he puts out, he controls the original message. And with social media, because it's also an insight into the person who puts it out. So their thoughts and you know, and you can do it immediately too, and you get so much response. So, you know, that could be another reason why he chooses it. And, you know, it could be why people really like it and follow him, you know, depending on how you view things. But I guess what he is he's working social media to his advantage and using what it does, I guess. So we're going to cover a fair bit, as I've said before, but the first parts are going to link really well with what we did in the first session. And then we're going to look at the ways that social media can actually work for you, and you can get it working in your business just quite easily. Okay. Social media marketing, it's kind of a big deal. It is now. And I'll be honest, when I went to university, which was quite a while ago now, social media wasn't even considered. Now it is a huge part of communications, journalism, those sorts of degrees. It's just amazing how quickly things have changed. It's also unlikely to go anywhere. Given there's so much more online these days, thanks COVID, and people want instant responses. They want gratification. There's also this rise of interest in engaging with brands and products and things like that. And this fits perfectly with social media. Ag isn't immune either. You see, you know, the paddock to plate businesses, for example, they're always, you know, they've got profiles up of their farmers. They've got profiles up of their, you know, processors. People want to engage with what they're eating. And this is good news. Like it's another way agriculture can tell its story. The not so good, depending on which way you look at it, is that social media does take quite a bit of time. It takes quite a lot of consideration and commitment. So this is a quote, which I actually took from an interview I did at the end of last year. To put it into perspective, Red Handed is a communications business based in Melbourne, and they handle some of Australia's largest agribusiness clients. And, you know, they've evolved. They started off with traditional media, and now they manage social media for these big accounts, plus traditional media as well. And this really struck a chord with me. How else can a brand have one-on-one conversation with an end user? And it's so true. Like during the interview, Lachlan Drummond, the managing director of Red Handed, said to me that the traditional marketing was spray and pay, it worked. And then he went on to explain to me about the wastage of money with traditional media ads. And to say that the great thing about social media is that the person behind the account was A, in control, B, could determine the tone, it was a low cost of entry, and it was a low risk nature. And all these things work to the benefit of small businesses, agriculture, anybody. And the best bit, and this is the bit that stuck with me because it comes back to authenticity, which is something we're going to cover in the interview section in the next session in a fortnight, because it doesn't matter if you aren't polished on social media, especially if you're in the agricultural space. We'll get into that in a second. So this one, just another one to reinforce the need for strategy and purpose behind communication. So it does help to have a plan, but we did cover purpose in the first workshop, which is why that was first for so many reasons. But social media is no different to traditional media communications. You know, there's a reason you're doing and you want an outcome. I've personally put this post here because I loved it. You know, obviously the purpose was to try and get someone to rent these people their house. But I really like the idea we talked about in the other session about making, you know, humans like animals. Plus it's cute, and it actually made me look at the post. It was a real estate agent post. I don't think a picture of a house would have done the same thing. So there's just an example of how a purpose and an outcome can be achieved on social media. So social media is fun. Try not to come across as boring. It's so easy to be fun on social that there's no reason why you possibly could be boring. But variety is the key. Now, please, whatever you do, if you're posting on social media, don't put the same post across every platform. Mix it up. You can, you know, and that goes for timing too. You know, you can spread the timing out. And I've just got here the National Farm Safety Week, which was last week or the week before. These are the Victorian Farmers Federation posts. Obviously, we've got the traditional media release, got a video from the president and his farm. He did a couple that week. and member contributions, just how they've used safety on their farm. So all different platforms, same message, different ways, keeps it interesting. On social media, and I'd argue in traditional media too, a picture can tell 1,000 words. You know, everybody here would know the boom in online livestock sales recent years, especially since COVID. Places like Auctions Plus and things like that have really hit their strides. And anyone who buys or sells cattle would know the next best thing, ideally you'd want to be there, the next best thing is being able to watch a video or photos or get up close and personal with it. So social media, perfect for that situation. You know, the same thing could be right across all sorts of agriculture. You know, you can't go for a crop walk, you know, virtual crop walk. There's so many opportunities. The wireworm post is something that I had saved from, I think it's nearly a month ago now, but I thought it was a perfect example of how a picture tells 1,000 words on social media. No amount of words, no matter how you write it, would be able to do the job that that Instagram picture does to show a grower what that worm looks like. And the bonus of the picture is that in the caption, you've saved all the space that you would have had for otherwise describing it to basically post details. So that could be links to fact sheets about it. It could be phone numbers for, you know, the consulting people to come out and help them. So opportunities for your business. So, you know, pictures do tell 1,000 words. Videos. Would a video work? The short answer is yes, if it's short and sweet. Remember when you're watching a video on your phone or your computer or whatever, you can't always hear the video. Like, so if you can put subtitles in, that's excellent. And you don't want to be stuck there watching for ages. So when I do videos for clients, I try to make them go for 15 seconds, which is tricky to get your point across, which is why, you know, you try to make one point if it's someone talking. Otherwise, you just show a short snippet of something that's going on. Others go up to 25 seconds, but I just like to keep things short and sweet. Thing with video is you can do numerous ones. You can do quite a few. If something you want to show has different parts to it, just don't video it all in one part. You can post them at different times, short, sharp, shiny videos. They will get looked at. Okay, the example I have on the page here is a Crone Primos 5000. And for those who don't know, it was, I actually went to this field day because it was super interesting, but there was only 10 of them in the world at the time. It's a mobile pellet harvester. And they brought one to Australia, and there was, over the 2 days, there's hundreds of people that turned up to look at this mobile pellet harvester. And this is the perfect example of where a video works, because when you see this, you say to someone, oh, I went to look at a mobile pellet harvester. Like, what does that look like? If you look at it, just a picture of it, to me, it looks like a hay baler. And even if you say in your, say in your text that accompanies a picture that, yeah, it's a baler, looks like a baler that makes pellets, people still don't really understand how that works. So a video is a perfect opportunity for new technology, new machinery, complex processes, anything like that, as long as you keep it short. Okay, what about live? See lots of live on social medias. It can be pitfalls. People get quite scared of lives. But I personally think there's a lot of opportunities here for agriculture. You can be live from an event. You might have, you might have a customer using a product for the first time. But the key to live on social is that you have to promote that you're going to go live. Because if you haven't told your audience or your members or your customer base, they're not going to know when to tune in. And that, yes, you can watch them later in some cases, but it's not the same as watching them at the time. And when you're going to do a live, you need to say why you're live. And that brings back to, it's got to be a real reason why this is not a video and this is live. And that brings back to the timely aspect. And, it could be, for example, we are here trialing, we're about to harvest the first ever, grape variety for a wine example. Being there at that very moment brings back to the connection from the consumer, other farmers, perhaps. You're there when it's happening. You're seeing it right from the word go, and it's live. It's not necessarily polished. You're watching it as it happens. There's something quite special about that, and engaging, and is what social media does so well. Lives can work in with other types of social media promotion in terms of, so if I'll take it back to that grape example. All right, so, you know, they've gone live to harvest the first sort of grape. You could do videos later on of different other processes and say, you know, this comes after we've done this, thanks to everybody for tuning in, that sort of stuff. Now, in the red box, I have basically put a cheat sheet up for going live, which is roughly a copy of if you were to go live on a radio cross, for example. So I don't know if anybody, for example, listens to the news. Often people cross live to events or protests or, you know, outside a hospital or whatever. And same thing as for TV. The key is to explain absolutely everything. And Meg did it really well at the start, and she said, oh, you know, excuse me, you might hear my dog snoring. I'm lying in front of the fire. Basically, the key is to explain every tiny little bit of noise, every action that happens behind you. You are live, you need to explain what's happening. And the other key to a live is, you know, what are the people, the animals, whatever you're doing a live for, how are they reacting? Because reaction is the key to interest. Like, someone's tuned into this to hear you tell the story, but what is everybody else around you thinking? And like, I thought of an example for a live that perhaps people who were selling a product, you know, they might have gone to, for example, a training day, and, you know, they could go live on the way into the training day, like, you know, hi, I'm such and such, you've got to introduce yourself, you've got to say who you are. I'm here at blah, blah, blah training day. I'm going to hear, you know, I'm going to learn how to use X, Y, and Z product better. You know, I'm in Melbourne or Adelaide or wherever. There's so many people at this day, you know, put it all in context, explain everything that happens. Car drives past or, you know, honks its horn. Oh, we're in the middle of the city, you know, it's really busy, there's traffic everywhere, but I'm about to go in and I'm going to learn so I can serve my customers back. And then you can say, I'll pull you back in at lunchtime on the break and what we've learned from this morning, and I'm sure it's going to be really handy for you back on your farm. Okay, you don't have to be polished. And, you know, if you make an error, own it. We're going to go through some tips like that in a sec, but live has so many opportunities. So just keep in mind that little red box. I also have a picture of the Instagram story from, again, Victorian Farmers Federation. That was from yesterday. They had I think it was hashtag Mask Up Victoria or Mask Up Farms or something that was going around, because obviously regional Victoria, it's now compulsory to wear a mask. And Instagram story is just really a good example to collaborate everything over a day. You know, people that had contributed different pictures or stories or whatever, sum them up in your Instagram or Facebook stories, whatever. And yeah, people can have a quick look at it. It's like basically a recap of what's happened. So onto audience. Who you want, not just who you've got. Okay, I can't stress this enough with social media. You've got control, for starters, and you also have the ability to engage with your audience, okay? Both of those are the key to social media. It means you can gain audience and customers or whatever, while still servicing your existing customers. And you can research who you want to buy your products or use your services, or who you want to get the attention of, basically. Social media provides an insight into these people's lives, albeit probably slightly photoshopped and maybe the highlights, but you can get a bit of an idea about them. You can include them in conversations with hashtags, tag them as well. You can follow what they do, what conversations they have, what products they use, what they talk about, all those sorts of things. Okay, and then another really, really good thing about social media is that you can get your customers or your members working for you through social media. Okay, so just to break it down a little bit, research. Now I'm going to put a disclaimer on this because this can waste a whole bunch of time and you're going down all different rabbit holes, but I promise you it's worth it. You research, you'd research your market. Why not research your online market? Okay, who uses products like yours? What sort of farms do they have? What sort of businesses do they have? What do they discuss? Who do they discuss these things with? What sort of articles do they, read? Those sorts of things. LinkedIn is perfect for this, the professional networking site. People are forever sharing relevant things that they find relevant. Do your research. Okay, then you can target your communication. You can have conversations with the people you want to have conversations with, albeit they don't necessarily have to reply. And sometimes, you can't send a direct message to someone, perhaps on, for example, on Twitter if you're not following them, but you can tag people and you can get their attention. And yourself, if you're putting the stuff out there that they like, such as, relevant content, like, for example, if you're posting stuff, news, current affairs, developments in your industry, those sorts of things, those people who are interested in those things, they'll follow you. But the reason they'll be able to follow you is if you use relevant hashtags. So you've done the research, you know what people are using. Hashtag things. People search by different hashtags. And for those who don't know what I mean by hashtags, there's one up there on the screen. Okay. One of the generic ones, if you're not okay with social media or hashtags or anything like that, if you have a social media account, go home and put in hashtag AgChatOz, as in AGCHATOZ. I think it's every Tuesday night they have a discussion about all sorts of agricultural things. A lot of people target hashtag AgChatOz to get the attention of farmers. Another good thing about social media is you can actually just ask for what you want, which is really unusual in life sometimes, but social media is perfect for that. If you want likes on your page, ask people to give you some likes. Oh, I want to get up to 1,000 likes. We're 10 likes off 1,000, promote it. If you want to be tagged in products, when people use your product, ask them to tag you. If you use, X, Y, and Z, hat, for example, show us you wearing your hat in the field, tag us, ask people to do it. But the key thing is, please acknowledge and reward people when they do it. And I've got here an example of the National Farmers Federation tweet. It was from a while back, but when they had the Queensland live cattle, it was just after the court case, and there was talk that the federal government would appeal. The National Farmers Federation had a campaign, obviously trying to get them not to appeal, and they're getting people to sign petitions and things like that. And what they've done here is, they've acknowledged the fact that people have helped them with their cause, basically by saying, thank you for your support. So same sort of thing. Thank you for posting pictures of us. Check out Joe Blow. He's over here. He's got his wonderful hat on promoting my business. Have a look at this, my products have gone all the way over to WA, or here they are internationally, or whatever. People will do these things for you, particularly if they like the product you're engaging on social media, but you've got to recognise it. Okay, so thanks to our first session, workshop, we should know what our story ingredients are. These are fundamental for any sort of communication. So the who's, the what's, the where, the why's, the when's, the how's, credibility, books, those sorts of things. Also, the reason I kept banging on in the last session about the fact that we need short, sharp, shiny sentences, purely because social media relies on short, sharp, shiny sentences. And getting the key information at the top. People will only read the start, and they only read the start of traditional media, but on social media, it's worse. They don't accept essays, they just keep scrolling. Okay, so it's key, short, sharp, shiny, get your hook at the top. One of the greatest things about social media is that you have an engaged audience too. But unlike traditional forms of media, which have like a passive audience, as we discussed earlier, this engagement means that you have to interact with them. Otherwise, you lose this engagement. So if you think these photographs are of tractor cakes and header cakes, you'd be absolutely correct. These are photographs I've taken from one of the most snapshots, of social media, from one of the most innovative social media strategies I've seen for ages. I personally can't stop checking it out. And if I can get back over the SA border before October, my nephew's birthday, I'm pretty tempted to actually even enter this competition by making a New Holland cake. And I don't even want the prize on offer. It's just, it's so innovative. It gets engagement. People are posting their cakes, and the cakes are pretty amazing. But it's purely what they've called a New Holland bake-off. So it's an old idea, mixing it with new social media strategy. They asked everyone to caption their pictures with, you know, a hashtag 125 years or hashtag New Holland Ag, so NHAG. And personally, it's going to people's, I guess, you know, desire to show, you know, to use social media to show what they've done. So if you've made a cake that looks like a tractor and looks pretty good anyway, you could be tempted to post that on social media. But if you add that hashtag to it, not only do you go into the draw to win one of these, I don't even know what the prize packs are, but a prize pack of some description to celebrate 125 years of New Holland. So you're subconsciously helping New Holland out with its marketing. Pretty simple. So it's mixing fun, engagement, and marketing. But if you aren't into baking, and obviously not everybody is, there's a number of different ways you can get engagement through your social media. I've got a couple of examples down the side. There's Q&A. Surely just put questions out there or ask people for their questions. Asking, you know, two-way engagement. You can get people to caption a photo. That's done and dusted. They do that quite a lot through sports social media. Send us a pic of, you know, send us a pic of your crop. Send us a pic of, you know, your cows. Send us a pic of, you know, your weather conditions. What's it like at your place? But you have to acknowledge it. So you either acknowledge it by replying or you're sharing it, whatever. Okay, this is your engagement. See a lot of this on social media. So it's like, what's your favorite, whatever. So it's like, what accounting software does everybody use? You know, what work boots are best for these sorts of conditions? And then there's, you know, back to the show us your, you know, whatever it is, show us your tractor, show us your crops, all those sorts of things. But I just want you to remember that when it comes to engagement, questions are key, but answers are also really important. Okay, so when it comes to crafting your post, tweet, caption, whatever it is on social media, words or video, images or video tell a large part of the story. Sometimes you only need a line in terms of words because everything else is done for you there. And, you know, Instagram's a perfect example. You know, there's so many times people don't even read the captions on an Instagram post. It's purely about the pictures. It's a picture sharing platform. So what I've done is I've put two boxes up on the screen, you know, using your image and why it's good, you know, less words, more space for the links. So, you know, they can go directly to your website. They can contact you via, you know, email directly from this. It can also be shared. People love sharing pictures, videos, as opposed to sharing words. And people can add to it. So, you know, you might pick up tips or you might pick up new customers, anything like that. Things to keep in mind. I've gone away from the negative side by just calling it things to keep in mind. But the picture, it does actually have to tell the story. So a good picture is key, or a good video is key. And the key to a good video or picture is an engaging one. Now we're going to go through pictures in the next session, but you know, you can't just put any picture up there and expect it to work. And I guess this is a lesson you get through life anyway, that not everyone likes everything. And that can be a challenge with social media. People, when they tend to not like something on social media because they're behind a screen, what they call keyboard warriors, they'll happily tell you. So I've got some tips on how to manage that, but just keep that in mind when it comes to social media. When it comes to social media, consistency is key, pretty much like a lot of things in life. If you post regularly, people know you want to be there. You're enthusiastic, you're relevant, you know, you want to share your business, life, whatever it is, with your followers. Okay, and as I hope people picked up from the first session, being relevant is super important. You know, it shows you're on top of things, you know, so news, current events, anything that happens in your business, anything that happens in your industry, something happens overseas, you know, not only are you an expert because you know about this, you shared it so other people know about it, and it's come from you. You're the credible source. Okay, people will go to you for information about that in, you know, in the future. But you've got to do it consistently. You've got to do it when it comes out. You know, you can't ignore it and hope that all your followers will stay or pay attention to you. Now, if social media had a middle name, I'd say it would be engagement. But pretty much social media implies engagement anyway. So people expect you to answer, and they expect you to answer promptly. You know, they're engaging with your business. And what I say to some people who are perhaps new to social media is, if a customer came into your shop now, would you actually leave them standing at the front counter while you just went about your business? Because, and pretty much everyone says no. And I'd say, well, because social media is the same. You know, they've come and inquired about your business, albeit it might not be as serious because, you know, they haven't hopped in the car and they've driven there. You know, for some reason, your business or your service or whatever it is sparked an interest enough for them to comment, post, whatever, ask a question. Okay. The other thing about social media is because it's deemed as easy, you know, everyone carries a phone or a computer or whatever, you know, it's not complex to get back to them. It's not like you're calling someone or, you know, contacting someone after you've seen an ad in a newspaper, for example. You know, there's no middle person. So there's that expectation of prompt reply and basically engagement. I've got a clock on there purely because the timing of posts. You know, don't post at the same time every day. The reason I say not to do that is because it looks like it's automated and, you know, you're just posting for the sake of posting. So, but you guys know your audience better than other people. Like, you know, are they likely to engage more on a post if it's at lunchtime, for example, or, you know, after tea in the evening or in the morning? And vary it up to, like, my experience with doing some social media, filling in for some ag organisations, is that everything gets read in the evening or really early in the morning. That might be because it was work with dairy, I don't know, but fundamentally that's when all the engagements happened. But like I said, you guys know your audience better than I ever will. So just ask them, when do you check your phone? When do you check your computer? Those sorts of things. Okay, engagement doesn't have to be scary. Excuse me 1 second. I know it can be, and the idea of answering questions or, you know, basically having interactions with people you've never met before can be daunting. But everyone on this workshop, like, you guys have a specialty. You know, your business is something that not everybody does. So, you know, leverage that. You know, you could put a teaser out for information. You can provide some news, some tips, anything. Work with what you've got with your social media. And honestly, if your social media is there for business and say, you know, you happen to be selling hats, right? People aren't going to come to you and ask for information on trading shares on the stock market, okay? So you're not expected to know things that you haven't put out there. So keep that in mind. You know, it's also a really, really good way to, I don't know, tease people with your skills, you know, share resources. You know, if you come here, this is what you expect. This is the sort of help I can offer. These are the sort of networks that I have. You know, it's basically like an ad, but subliminally. I have at the bottom, and I've highlighted it, and I referenced it a little bit earlier, that not everybody and everything is nice on social media. Now, there's a couple of tips I was just going to share for dealing with online trolls, bullies, whatever it is. People might have their own way of doing this, but for those that don't, this is what I've always gone by and what I was taught. So I worked as a journalist for more than 15 years, and so a couple of older journalists told me the benefit of the one response rule. So that means whoever comes at you on whether it be Twitter or Facebook or whatever, you respond once. That way you're acknowledging them. And the importance of acknowledging them is that everybody else in that network, or your followers, or whatever, or whoever might follow them, for example, or follow the hashtag, or however the conversation's happening, they can see that you are basically, you don't shy away from the hard conversations, you can handle the questions, you can handle the criticism, and how you go about it, okay? So you either agree with them, disagree with them, put your point forward, whatever, however you do it once, okay? Then it's up to you whether you want to engage further. And if they persist and become detrimental to your business, or even in some cases your mental health, because that happens quite a lot with social media, block them. You don't need them anymore. But in some cases, some people who perhaps come back provide opportunities for, lessons on how you can present things better or whatever. But if anybody's stuck with how to deal with this, or they find the whole idea of engagement scary because of that possibility, just try the one response rule. So social media can be super fun. And the key to fun is authenticity. And as I alluded to at the start, the thing about social media is you don't actually have to be polished. But this isn't like a free kick, basically, to go and do anything illegal or rude or defamatory, or it's not a license for spelling errors and all that sort of thing. But fundamentally, rural, regional, ag audience, they can sniff out a phony. So it's really obvious to everybody, if you don't know what you're talking about, you don't care about what you're talking about, you aren't genuine. So that's why when it comes to social media, and I referred to it a little bit before, you stick with the golden rule of yourself or your business. This is something we'll cover in the interview tips in the next session, but fundamentally, if you talk about your experience, your business, what you're doing, all those sorts of things, people can't argue with you. And given you're using social media to promote your business, that sort of thing, perfect opportunity. You don't have to be an expert in anything else. One of the other things I absolutely love about it, it's a legitimate use for memes. You know, people love a laugh, anything funny relating to their industry, they'll share it, okay? But just keep in mind that, if you are using someone else's meme, to acknowledge that or whatever when it comes to social media, because once it gets shared and shared and shared, where it will come back to. Okay, so here are some tools and some things to help make social media a little bit easier. I love Canva. I've got a little screenshot up there of it. Most of its templates are free on there. You can make social media tiles, create a brand. You can save what you call your colors, fonts, etc. All those sorts of things that you use for social media tiles. It makes it easy, so you're not making them all from scratch all the time and they're all the same. Not that I work with any of them, but I know a few people who work with huge multinational agribusiness clients, and they have what they call a brand book. This is the case for any sort of business. And some of them are like super duper thick, that goes through everything from, what shirts people should wear to what, how they have their shoes, to how they talk to clients, to what cars they drive, to what font they use on social media, what colors they use, what tone, everything like that. But, most people on this course, either, other people are doing communications, or you're in your own business. So you can make those decisions yourself. You don't need an extravagant brand book like that. But that just gives you a bit of an idea of what goes behind them, the media and marketing machines. But just on a really simple level, Canva can work that to a treat. So you can save all that in the program. So if you want to check that out, that's really helpful. Post scheduling. I really like this, especially because it's really important not to post at the same time all the time. So, as I say to people who are new to it, you want to head out on a Saturday night, but you also need to schedule a post, don't fear. You just schedule it through any of the social media platforms. So set it to go, double check it. I did it the other week and I didn't double check it and it didn't go, and I wondered why it wasn't up. So just keep that in mind. That was with Facebook. Boost is a paid service. It gets you, well, they say it gets your post in front of more eyes. And to get a boost, you've got to include sort of key terms or search terms that people might use when they're looking for your post. I did some work with recruitment of staff, and they wanted to use Boost. So basically we went through anything anyone could possibly Google to get to that point where they were reading that post. So it was, you know, what uni students were doing, like courses, places that they might be Googling from. So all those sorts of things, basically a huge list of search terms. And the other thing, and I'd say it's like anything in business, if you don't measure and manage it, how do you know what's working? So, you know, check in on your posts. You know, someone might like videos, but they might not like the text, or they might not like the image, or whatever. You know, have a Google alert for some of the hashtags you use, have a Google alert for your business, have a Google alert for your business plus Facebook, all those sorts of things. Monitor it. Even if it helps to keep a little spreadsheet of what was popular, then you can look back on it and you can do more of the same, or, you know, work out why that was good. The other thing I actually do is, if I see people interact a lot with certain pages, I ask them what they like about it. I know that, you know, perhaps a lot of people don't really like actually going forward and asking people, but I find it gets the most direct answers. So, and that way you can plan for the future. So with that, I think we've covered social media in time to have a break and a cuppa. If anybody has any questions.
Thanks, Simone. Does everybody just want to turn their cameras on again? And Simone, I might get you to stop sharing your screen so that we can see everybody, please. And thank you for that really good session. That was a great kind of overview of socials. Are there any questions from anybody or comments? Quiet.
Hi, Scarlett. I wanted to turn on. Is that okay? Sorry, turn on my video because I'll lose audio.
All good.
But I was just wondering with the social media. So with the trolling and things like that, and that engaging once and then that's it, leaving it. Is that only on your own post? Because I see a lot of people on, you know, town discussion pages and things like that will have a go at a business or something, and I kind of sometimes think it's unfair because they aren't able to. Do you do the same on that, Simone, or you know, if you see it, do you, is it the same rules apply basically if it's on another page?
I don't know. I guess that's up to you. You can. Scully, is it like if it's a business that you particularly like or something, and you've seen someone have a go at them? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it's, you know, I see a lot of people. I'm on a discussion page where I used to live in Queensland, and small town, and it's, you know, can get a quite, you know, they'll get set against a certain business and they'll just go to town on this page, and it shouldn't. It's really detrimental. Like, and for a small town business, some of the things, you know, that, and it could be I had to wait an extra 10 minutes, you know, and my money, and they wouldn't give my money back, and, you know, just silly things. Most people will read through it, but they're, you know, yeah, I sometimes feel like saying, you know, go to the business, don't put it on here. Did you, you know, or my pizza's arrived cold, I'm never going to them again. And then you get another 10 people that go, oh, they did that the same with me. And it's, yeah, it's, you know, little things like that. And I guess, you know, do you let that business know so they can, you know, try and get the post down, or do I get on there and say, maybe you should be going to somebody to, or do you just leave it?
Yeah. Oh, no, that's a really good question. And I know exactly what you mean about that. It happens, and it doesn't just happen in small towns, but the problem, I guess, in small towns is that it is detrimental, and you actually know some of the people that post on it. And I used to really have that issue when I was a journalist full time, because you'd see people write and you know them, and they just sometimes write on there to get a bite. And, you know, it's because they're frustrated about something else, but, you know, they're sitting at home, they've got a computer, they've got the internet, they've got access, so they can complain behind a front. They don't have to front up to anybody. So there's a couple of ways you can handle this, and I guess it just depends how much you want to get involved. So, for example, if it is like the example you said about the pizza shop, and you've had a particularly good experience with that pizza shop, remember talking about talking about yourself, okay? You can talk about yourself with great authority, more authority than anybody else can. So what you can do is you can write on there going, oh, hi, I had, I bought a Hawaiian pizza two weeks ago and it was absolutely delicious. We really enjoyed it. And next time we have our takeaway night, we'll definitely be going to, X, Y, and Z pizza. Thank you very much, okay? There's a lot to be said in recognising good service, good people, and doing it publicly, but talking about your experience so you're not going into the rabbit hole, I guess. It's up to the people who own the post as to how much they want to engage, but if they were going to me, I'd say to them, acknowledge this once. And then if they keep coming back, and as part of the first acknowledgement, you can even put DM me, so send me a direct message, or here's my email, here's my phone number, happy to have a chat with you about this and ways we can improve our service for next time, or improve our product, or whatever it is, okay? That way you take the discussion ideally out of the public sphere, you've acknowledged it, and you promise to help them out. And I haven't worked in any of those sorts of industries, but I know from being a journalist, confronting people with issues, and journos get a lot of crap online, but confronting people directly with issues, people all of a sudden don't have an issue. Like I used to, if I got a lot of hate, for example, on social media, I'd ask to do the same thing, the one response, get them either send them phone number, I'd send them my phone number privately, give them a ring, and I'd say that I'd come down and see them the next day. So, that's a way to change a chin. But if you want to help a business that's not related to you, go with the I rule. I had a good experience, or I had this, I had that. Thank you very much for this. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yeah, perfectly. Thank you very much.
Questions from anybody else or comments?
I might as well ask it because I can speak faster than I can type, Simone. I was just going to ask you, do you have any favourite platforms for measuring and managing your social media activity, like Twitter analytics and all that sort of stuff? Is there one that works the best or not?
You just muted someone.
Oh, I just muted myself. Sorry, not really. Twitter analytics. Behind the scenes of Facebook, in the business pages, you can measure what you've done if you're a Facebook pro. But to be honest, I don't have a favourite, and I just go back to those few. Businesses prefer different reports. I just basically keep track of what's liked and where's it's gone and stuff, either if it's not a huge account manually or through the Twitter Analytics, Facebook report at the back, Instagram report at the back of the program. So there'd probably be people who do social media full time and have special programs or more recommendations, but that's how I operate.
Yeah, those sort of things just make my eyes glaze over.
To be honest, as I said at the start, I went into journalism before social media was even a thing. So I adapted kicking and screaming. I'll fully admit to that. So it does make my eyes glaze over too, but I realise the importance of it and what it can actually do for a business or a service or anything. Like, it has a really, really, really strong, powerful tool.
I have heard, David, people using a tool called Hootsuite, and I don't know very much about it at all. Some of you might be more familiar with it than I am, but I understand that that's a good one for analytics and for scheduling posts and that sort of thing. Danny's got her thumbs up too.
Yeah, I've dabbled with it a bit. I use a thing called Social Jukebox now just because it's free and it's simple and easy to use. And actually, when you send them an email and say, how do you do this, they actually respond to you.
Great. There you go. If you are using a tool like that, can I just get you to pop the name of it into the chat box? That might be really helpful for other people online, and they could just jump on and, have a bit of a trial with what they're using and, work out which one's the best for them. And the other thing too, I think, is that it really just is up to personal preference. Like I know that we in McKillop Group, Megan just jumps on behind Twitter analytics and behind the Facebook analytics to have a look at how our posts are performing. And that seems to work really well. But, you know, she might find in future that she's better off to use one of those programs. So, yeah, it's just all about finding what works for you, isn't it? Further questions or comments for Simone? No one's looking like they really want to ask you any questions.
I'm going to check out Social Jukebox because I've used Hootsuite and I was like, no, it's not for me. But I hadn't used Social Jukebox, so thanks for the recommendation, David.
That's right. It's run by some American bloke, and I reckon he's replied to me half a dozen times. I was having trouble with something, or they changed something and it wasn't working, and he goes, "Oh, sorry about that. Here you go. I fixed it."
Oh wow! Gee, that's great service.
That's what you want, isn't it?
I can't think of his name, but you'll find him on there.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Now, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Who wants? Put your hand up if you want 5 minutes. Hands up if you want 10 minutes. Yep. All right, we'll give you 10 minutes. Jump off, grab a coffee, do whatever else you need to do. Keep Zoom open and just pop yourself on mute and your camera off if you want. And we will see you in 10 minutes. So thanks, Simone. Take it away.
Ranger. Oh, that didn't work.
No.
Again. Is that working?
Got it. Yep, beautiful.
Okay, I don't have my notes though with me, so I pressed something very wrong. Can you see my screen?
Yep, I can see. Yeah, that's better now. I can see your slideshow again.
I don't have presenter share, so what have I pressed? Sorry, everybody.
Don't panic. We'll just get it sorted. Make sure it's working for you properly. Can you change your view on that screen, or maybe you need to share a different screen?
Yeah, I'll start from the start again. No, it's still doing it. Sorry. Try that one. Share that one and see if that works.
Now I can see your desktop.
My desktop. Right. Sorry, everybody. Might just have to go without my notes. Not sure why that's not working. What's happening?
We can see that now.
You can see it now?
Yeah, we can see it
I don't
now.
have my presenter view up though, which is a bit of a pain in the bum.
Does anyone have any tips? I actually don't know how to do it. Can you share your different desktops, Simone, rather than sharing the PowerPoint program? Or
Just
that's what
go
you're
full
sharing
screen
anyway?
there and you should be right.
Can you see my screen now?
Yeah. I can see your screen now.
I still don't
now
have
we can.
Got it.
If you click down the bottom, Simone, have you got like swap to presenter view? See those little icons down the bottom somewhere? Yeah. I don't know whether that's.
Oh, I don't know what I've done. Sorry, guys. Till I do this regularly. What? Okay. All right. Well, I don't really know what I'm going to do, but I guess I'll have to have a go without my notes. So we'll see how that goes.
Up the top on view options, you got side by side mode. If you need to see.
View option.
I think that will just adjust how you're seeing your Zoom screen display. It won't adjust how your slideshow is displaying. Have you displayed the actual PowerPoint program, Simone, or have you just shared your actual desktop with us?
I just shared my desktop, which is what I did before.
Yeah, well, do you want to just try sharing the program, like sharing PowerPoint?
Okay, how would I do that?
Select share, and
Yep.
now you've got the PowerPoint. You've got your PowerPoint up.
Yep.
Okay, so now you should have an option to select.
Yep.
Yep, select either desktop 1, 2, 3, however many desktops you've got, or to actually just select the program you've got open. Try that, give that a go. Yeah, now click slideshow.
And I still don't have a presenter view.
So I don't have a presenter view. Okay.
I've definitely done something really badly. No. Oh, look, I'll just have to have a go, I guess, without my notes. So bear with me, everybody. I'm very sorry. I don't know what I have done. I'll just share from the program, see if that works, and go from there.
Just click on slideshow. How's that? No, still the same?
No, still the same.
Yeah. All right, we might just get started, and I'll
just get started, and bear with me. I'll just go as I go. So this is smartphone photography. I really wanted to stress to everybody that you're not going to become a professional photographer. These are purely tips and tricks that I'm going to share with you that you can use with your phone. You can use without, any, remote flashes, anything fancy. You can do them out in the paddock, in the shed, whatever you're going. You're not going to become a photographer. Photographers worth their weight in gold. They've done a lot of study, all that sort of stuff. Just this is pretty much stressing that you're not going to become a professional photographer. Okay, so smartphone photography, we've got heaps and heaps of stuff to cover here. But if I was to pretty much sum it up, I would say please don't wear your sunglasses, tip your hat back, make sure you get some people in the picture and take lots of photos. But we are going to go through everything, but if you take nothing out of this, just take that, please. Okay, this pretty self-explanatory, and I nicked this off Twitter last week. It was why the background is important, and this shot has actually been made into a meme. So just keep in mind that while the talent's at the front, everything that's going on behind needs to be taken into consideration. So when you're looking at the whole picture, this happens quite a lot. A farmer or whoever is in your group, they might have a competitor's hat on, or t-shirt or whatever. Who is in it? There's issue with kids quite often. If you can recognise them, you need to get permission for them to be photographed. Equally, not every adult is okay with having their photograph taken too, and some people can be recognisable in the background of a shot. I've had people come up to me and say they can't be in for numerous reasons. Some of them have been court related, which is very serious, but there's ways around this. You can actually have permission forms that you give to people, but you also just ask, or the number one rule, which we're going to go through in a minute, is to have a clean, clear, unmessy background anyway, which helps, but just keep all those things in mind when photographing. I've got written here, is there a cow pooing? Because this is actually an issue when it comes to agriculture, but it extends further out. So is there a mess, rubbish, fire hazard, broken gates, limping livestock, anything you don't want to be in there? Have a look at the whole thing before you start snapping. Okay, this is another thing which is huge. If I had $1 for everybody that rang me up when I worked at the paper that said, why is there a farmer on a quad bike without a helmet? I have a few dollars, but the point is, if you always want to promote best practice, and yes, it means if you've got someone sitting on a quad bike and they're not actually driving, there's no way they can be driving it, they're on the edge, they don't need a helmet. It's pretty obvious they're not going to drive it, they're just sitting there, but the picture I've got on the screen, it is someone driving, they don't have a helmet, okay? And the list is never ending of best practice, legal, all that sort of thing, but you guys promoting agriculture, you want to make sure you're doing that with your photographs, because you never know where they're going to go. This is another one that's super important, the whole picture. And I touched on this in the first session when I discussed the fact that agriculture has some amazing stories to tell. And it's up to the agricultural industry to share these stories and to share them in a way that people can understand them and engage with them. But you need to ask yourself before you share, and this, you know, I guess it's mostly important with pictures because it's an image, but it's the same in writing, it's the same in social media, it's the same with everything. Is this the image you want to portray? So that could simply be, you know, moving a person and asking politely, moving a person away from perhaps a big pile of weeds, or, you know, if someone has, I've had this actually happen, a farmer at a sale had a big rip in their t-shirt. I framed it so you couldn't see the t-shirt, and you know, it just makes it look a bit nicer. Now you guys are in a position, you are in the agricultural industry, you're promoting your own business, you're promoting the industry, you're promoting your service. You can consider these sorts of things. Okay, something that I'm always on about. There's a saying that sells faces sell papers, and it goes back to the first workshop where I talk about the fact that people actually like and engage with stories of people like them. They might know them, they might be like them. They're a beef farmer, I'm a beef farmer, they're from the southeast, I'm from the southeast. Same principle with pictures. Faces are way more engaging than things, okay? Now, I love this shop. Tomo, he's a great bloke, but the story was about silage, right? And there's not a lot you can do with silage when it comes to taking a photograph and trying to promote that photograph that says silage, okay, and get an engaging picture. Because, you know, as everybody knows, you've got a tractor, this bale silage that's coming out the back of a baler. There's no human that's real obvious involvement in this, okay? But, you know, we've got him to pick it up, you know, he's baling, all that sort of stuff. Also, the other thing about this photograph is he's looking directly at the camera, engaging, but the red and the green contrast, so it makes the picture pop. Okay. We're talking about faces sell papers. What does everybody think about this image? Does everybody even know what this image is of? Let's see. Anyway,
it's wool in the sale box.
It is. Thank you. Thanks, Danielle. That picture alone, a lot of people, when I've showed it, as because I've done a similar presentation about photos quite a lot, I've shown people that don't know agriculture and they're like, I don't even know what that is. And to be fair, it's not really obvious, but it's not something that stands out. Like, you know, why would you look at that? Yes, it's wool, now we know what it is, but there's nothing happening in it. So then you take off, okay, same wool, we've added someone doing something. We've added a human element to it. So, you know, oh, by the way, this is taken on an iPhone. So most of the pictures I've used in here are taken on iPhone, and I'll tell you when they're not. Yeah, so we've got this. So he's doing something. Not only is he handling the wool, he's stretching it out so you can see it's human element, you know, rough hands indicate a farmer. We're getting a bit of personality in the shot. Still a shot about wool. You can still see the wool, okay? This is the third picture. And I've put this in as an example because it's an example of two things. The first one is you can't make people do something that they don't want to do. And also you can't make anybody feel uncomfortable. Now this grower, he did not want to look at the camera or the phone. Don't know why, he just didn't want to, so I didn't push it. And I was there actually doing radio. So what I wanted to do was actually get his comments more than anything. And he was quite okay with that. He just didn't like the idea of pictures, which is fine. But for an online piece, we sort of have to have a person. So if they can't engage with the camera, they're engaging with what they're doing. So he's looking at the picture. It, you know, adds an element of human to it, okay? Ideally, yes, I would have loved him. If I could pick the ultimate, I would have loved him to look at me, maybe hold the wool up a bit, straight at the camera, but you know, he would have been uncomfortable doing that. So you work with what you've got. But the bonus of having a person in it is not only you've got this human element, you know, it's this person's story, but you get a caption. So if you're thinking about putting out a press release or you're putting out a newsletter or basically anything, anytime you use a person, it's good to really acknowledge who they are. In a caption, captions are often written in other fonts. So you can, you know, people's eyes go to that on a page quite often. So if you get nothing out of it, you get the caption and the picture, okay? Captions also an opportunity to get extra info into. So I put these in to show you that people aren't just engaging images. That was in a feedlot, that Angus. But it also that engaging images aren't necessarily close up to the camera. Although that is the cheapest way to get an engaging image if you're in a hurry or whatever. But this one here with the two gentlemen in the dairy, the eye is trained to the people purely because of the pipe work in the herringbone dairy. It indicates straight down the middle. So, you know, we're engaged, you know, yes, they're in a dairy, but we really want to look at them, okay? So when it comes to framing a picture, the key is to get people to do something, okay? Movement, doing something indicates that there's something happening. It's not just a static picture, it helps with the interest. Okay, so the lady holding it's pasture, ryegrass and clover, that was about silage and silage quality, that story. And it was out there, we took a bunch of pictures, you know, they started mowing it, all that sort of stuff. We went back and tedding it, you know, but in the end, the picture of her holding it was the one that was selected. And it's purely because she's doing something, you know, she's holding it, she's looking at the camera. And look at the smile, like faces sell papers. Also, she was quoted in the story too, so it gives that element of credibility too, because not only is she, you know, she's talking about it, she was there. Here's a picture of her in the paddock. Okay, the young bloke down the bottom with the clippers, I love that picture. I think it's super cute. But what it does is it indicates to me that, you know, he was busy clipping away, preparing the heifer for show until the camera came and snapped in front of him. You know, it gives the impression that he was interrupted slightly and he went back to exactly what he was doing. And he did go back to exactly what he was doing because he told me he was in a very big hurry. So, you know, it's giving that doing something. And I've got the pictures of the dairy farmers in the presentation to prove that doing something can be as simple as leaning. And I know that sounds like you're not doing anything, but you're not standing there still rigid. You're actually doing something by the purpose of leaning. So, you know, and doing something can be easily scratching a dog, you know, scratching a cow, whatever. The guy at the front, he was scratching behind the cow's ears and I snapped a photo of him. The one down the bottom with the blue check shirt, that's the same photograph, just obviously different angle, horizontal, vertical. If I'd got him standing there in the yard, you wouldn't have got the angles or the depth. I mean, and he wouldn't have been doing anything. Just by purely leaning, there's an action involved in the image. Okay, movement you can put movement into pictures even when it seems like there might not be movement. And this took me a really, really long time to learn, and I'm still not very good at it. Like, I'm not a professionally trained photographer. I've done workshops as part of working in the media and being a journalist, and I'm very lucky to have a lot of photographer friends who give me tips, and I do courses, but fundamentally, you know, it's something you learn on the job, and it's like writing, it's for practice. But introducing movement into a picture of animals, you know, it creates that interest rather than, you know, a cow just standing there. These cows, they're busy, they're doing something. You were there at the time taking that photo as they were walking to the dairy. So they're walking from one side out the other. Okay, then we've got crops. We've got a foot in there, provides context, also breaks it up a bit, so it's not just the whole one static shot. Okay, bit of added colour shows that something's happening. This Citrus Australia photograph, okay, often everyone here, I'm sure, has been to a presentation where people just stand at the front and talk at you all day. They don't make for super interesting photographs, but occasionally, like me, people talk with their hands. Yeah, movement can come in the face, people's different facial expressions. They can also come with hands, arms, whatever, okay? You can introduce movement in places that you otherwise wouldn't have. Okay, this is another example of doing something, and it talks to a point I'm going to bring up in a second about variety. So this is black garlic in eastern Victoria, and black garlic is specialty. It's worth a lot of money, and not a lot of people have seen it. It's pretty new, it gets exported. So the first photograph there on the biscuits with the cheese is basically how you can eat black garlic. So I took this image as a context picture, as like a baseline, okay? These images, you know, that's not an overly engaging image, but I guess if you like cheese, maybe it is, but fundamentally no. But you keep these on hand because, you know, depending on what you're going to do, you can etch them out, you can use them as social media stock photographs. They just better to have more than not enough. All right, the next one, and similar to what we were talking about in the first session of getting the hook and getting people to look at it. Black garlic, the key ingredient of a story about black garlic is the fact that it's black. It's in a white casing, but inside it looks black. And given not many people had seen it, that's the bit you want to keep, you know, you want people to look at. That's going to get people to read the story, look at the product, whatever, okay? But to put a human element into it, you've used the hands, okay? And just framing it with the green in the background, okay, makes the hands stand out. All right, we've taken it one step further in the other photo, and this goes to a point of when I talk about framing, grouping things together. And I've got a couple of slides that's going to talk about that in a second. But what we didn't want to do in that picture is have someone holding the black garlic perhaps down on a table or further away from their face, because you don't want someone to look at an image. They're going to look directly at the person and then perhaps down to whatever it is they're holding or whatever. You want the person who's going to look at the image to look at in the same area initially, and you don't want their eyes to roam. So him holding it up like this, yes, you might not know what it is, but that could be part of the hook too. Like a few people looked at it and thought it was a rock. They weren't really sure what a rock was doing holding it there. You know, he was happy. Also shows context, how big it was, but it gets him in it plus the product. So, you know, it's him doing something, but keeping it in his eye line with a small product. And this is like one of the more trickier things to photograph when you've got little things with a human. Okay, using photos for context. This bloke, super strong, is he? No. These are tiny little bales that get sent to pet food stores and fodder stores in Melbourne and mostly used for rabbits. Now, they're pretty novel, but if I had photographed it just sitting on the ground, we wouldn't have got the context. We wouldn't have got how small they are in comparison to, I guess, normal little squares or the big bales that go to export or things like that. Also, if you put, like I tried to put a bucket next to it for context, it didn't have that human interest in. And simply the fact that he can hold one in each hand indicates their size. And he's given us a good smile. It's got that human element, context of the picture, and clean and clear background of the larger hay bales. So we look at him, we look at his bales. If you were to improve this, which was a bit tricky because they kept falling off, the only thing I guess you could do is get him to hold them up a bit higher. But, you know, it's really showing the context and the size of the bales, which is part of the story. Okay, here's another example of context. I don't know, what do you think of when you see this picture? Like, what do you think these people could possibly do for it? You know?
Unmute yourselves and tell us what you reckon.
My first thought when I look at it is they've cut their feet off.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
Like, it doesn't look like a full image, I guess, is what I'm trying.
No, it's not.
What do you see about these two people standing in front of these cows? What about that image makes you think, yeah, they're a dairy farmer, or they're another type of farmer? They're just in cows.
They look happy.
They were super duper happy, Stuart. Yeah. I'll jump in, and I put this in for context because it's really hard, especially on a phone, to get the impression that people milk heaps of cows or people have a lot of animals, because obviously you can't include them all in the background. And it's pretty hard to get a clear background and clear people when you're shooting on iPhone or, you know, smartphone, whatever it is. Okay, yes, their feet are chopped off, and I'm going through where to chop people off in a couple of sessions. So it's not ideal. It's not the greatest picture, but I popped it in here purely to show context. Like, I think they milked like 1,500 cows or something. They're not all in the background, but the idea is that I wanted to show that, yes, they have a lot of cows. Yes, they're really happy. They're seasoned. They've got quite a lot, they had quite a lot of feed in front of them. They had a uniform. They were quite smart, you know, presented well, those sorts of things. Okay, so you've got to think about context. Like, what are you talking about? What are you saying when you're photographing? What do you want people to see when you're photographing? Here's just 2 more context photos. On the left, there's I particularly didn't like the shot on the left. It was a story about CFA Brigade, and they got some extra funding, so they were able to upgrade a couple of things in their fleet. So they had extra stuff. So basically the story was, yay, thanks to this money, we've got more stuff in our fire shed. Now, I didn't like it because the people are too far away for my liking. I didn't find it engaging. However, it was selected to go with the press release purely because it showed context, and it showed that, you know, they have a ute and they have a truck and, you know, in the fire shed. And, you know, that's what the story was about. They're now fully equipped thanks to this money. Now, at that same shot, I took a couple of photos of the fire captain in the ute with his arm out doing something. They didn't choose that because they didn't think it showed what the money had contributed to. So back to your purpose, back to the first session when we talked about why are you communicating, what do you want to get out of it? You've got to think about that with your pictures as well. The other one is a super grainy photograph, and I'm pretty sure Zoe would kill me if she saw me presenting it like that, but I took it off Instagram in a screenshot, so I'm apologising. But the reason I put it there is it's the perfect example of photograph in context, and a beautiful photograph showing context. Mind the grainy bits if you want to look at the original. It's up on Instagram in the Weekly Times. But the context is, so, okay, so it's a sale yard in the middle of a paddock, basically. So, oh, okay, right, where are we? Oh, high country cattle sales. Okay, obviously people are there to buy cattle or fundamentally move cattle because you've got your truck, okay? There's people doing stuff in the front of it. There's lots of people there, so you're giving the impression it's very busy. It's also very beautiful. Got the scenery in the background and people are doing things, okay? The other thing I really like about it is it splits. You've got your background at the back, you know, which sets the scene where it is. It's really quite pretty. Got the middle of the truck. Okay, this means business. We're doing something. This is providing a context. What's going on here? You've got the sale at the front, which is all the interaction and the people doing things. And fundamentally, it tells the story about what basically how the cattle sales in the high country are perhaps different to your traditional sale yard ones that you see quite regularly in the paper. Variety is the spice of life, so they say. Yeah, no, it's the key. The good thing about digital is that you can shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot, and then when you get home, you just delete them, okay? It's always better to have more, okay? Often when you send photographs attached to press releases, you have a vertical and you have a horizontal. 2 options, you've got more for the layout people to work with. Also, if you're doing your own social media from your pictures, having a whole bunch of different options is great. So you can etch some out if you wanted to put on a tile for social media. Or you could also, yeah, just options, options, options. I've never had anybody come back and say, oh, gee, I wish I'd taken less photos. Like, that just doesn't happen. Okay, I've also popped in a couple of examples of perhaps where, you know, types of photos that you could get if, you know, if you couldn't think of any yourself from, you know, what you're going to write, your purpose or what you're trying to show. You know, you've got close up, distance, person, people within the image, walking through the paddock, landing on a gate, fence, doing something, chatting often helps as well. So there's a few different things. So with variety comes mixing up angles. Like, you don't always want to see something from your eye height. Now, and also everybody's eye height is very different. So I'm quite tall. So my eye height version of me holding my phone like this and snapping would be very different to someone who's quite short, for example. But you can mix it up. And, you know, I've worked with photographers who've gone in telehandlers, who've hung out the doors of cars and snapped photos along the road so that, you know, they get action shots, they've crawled through the mud, all sorts of stuff. I am not advocating any of that. You'll be in no danger mixing up your angles here. So the first picture of the bloke leaning on the gate, I just topped on the back of his, well, no, I think I was actually on his bull bar of his ute. I stood up on that. So I got from just a slightly different angle. The people in the dairy, I stood on their pipe gate thing as you come in. The guy in his crop with his cows, that was purely me squatting down just to get a different angle, but I wanted to get the clouds in because it was a nice contrast. The blue was a lovely contrast to the green at the bottom, and it divided the photograph in thirds. And yeah, that's just, you know, like the cow, it's just lying on the ground and taking a photo upside down. And again, the good thing about digital is you can turn them all around. So you can mix up with angles without, just creates that interest, gives that variety. Okay, so when we had the black garlic slide up, I was talking about grouping things together. So where the eye goes when it looks at a picture. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that things are together, okay? Because you don't want people looking to the top of the photo, then back to the bottom of the photo. So I've got two pictures here of the same butcher, same day, everything like that. The story I was writing was actually about the butcher, not really his meat or his business or anything. It's about him personally and what he had done. So the picture on the left, yep, it shows his shop, that sort of thing. That might be a really good image, perhaps, if I was doing a story about the variety that he had in store, like the fact that he stocks wine, which you can see, you know, he's got all sorts of different things. The one on the right, he's leaning into the meat, like he's engaging with the photograph, he's leaning forward. So it's that doing something again. You know, the other one is quite stagnant, he's standing there, and when he's leaning in, doing something, there's movement in the picture. Also, the big thing about that one is that he's got himself just that little bit closer to the meat. So if you were, you know, if you're looking at his face, you're looking down, you're not roaming all over the picture looking for what the focal point should be. Okay, so in a practical sense, because not many people will be photographing butchers, but in a practical sense in the paddock or whatever people might be using for this sort of thing, is that if you've got people in a photograph that are all different heights, if you have some children, you know, if you can, maybe lift them up, put them on your hip. If not, you could get them to sit, you know, on the top of the gate, or equally, if you've got tall people, you can get them to sit down, you can get them to lean. You know, ideally, you don't want the heights to be up here, down here. You want them to sort of be within the same range. And you also want everybody to be sort of together. So you don't want people, you know, one person on one side of the image, the other person on the other side of the image. Ideally, you have them together. If they have to be spread out, which I understand a lot of photographs with businesses at the moment are being taken COVID safe, which is very important, and it shows responsibility, community responsibility. But a few really good COVID safe pictures I've seen was that, you know, one person comes to the front, the other person slightly to the back. They're not spread out across the photo, they're spread out sort of depth-wise. So if you keep that in mind, you don't want people's eyes roaming all over the photograph. Okay, the other one is less is best if you can help it. So I'm sure everybody is aware of the wedding photos where, you know, there's bulk, you know, bride and groom stand in front of all their guests and the photographer gets up on a step ladder or whatever it is, takes a photo of everybody. Those photos, I can guarantee you, are not so that the bride and groom can recognise every single person who came to their wedding. They are purely a context picture, okay? They are not the sort of picture that's going to get people engaged unless you were talking about bulk weddings as, you know, or bulk whatever it is, or, you know, protests, for example. Yes, have a photograph with lots and lots of people because it shows what's happened. But fundamentally, if you're telling the story of an individual person and their experience at that protest, or an individual person and their experience with that product or service, you know, that's not the way to shoot things. The other thing is, if you have bulk people in a photograph, you have humongous captions, okay? Really, really big captions say a couple of things to me. The first one is so many more opportunities for errors, spelling errors with names, towns, all that sort of thing. Other thing is bulk captions take up huge amounts of space. So if you, and as we talked about in the first workshop, if you're sending something in and it gets cut for space, so they might only include the first 3 lines or first 3 paragraphs, whatever, they might put a picture in, you don't want to take up valuable space with heaps and heaps and heaps of names, okay? So just keep that in mind. Okay, here's some other tips and tricks. And I think it was back to, was it Danielle who brought up the people getting their feet chopped off? Don't cut anybody off at the knees. If you need to chop in an obvious spot, okay? I always like to try and chop at the waist if I can, because I don't know why, I find that to be more aesthetically pleasing. But, you know, equally, you know, if you're going to chop someone off, you know, chop them off, you know, at the side of their elbow, or you've got one arm in or something like that, okay? But ideally, you don't want to chop people off, but if you have to, cut off, don't just cut their feet off, you know, don't just cut their hands off. It looks really quite odd. And it's not just people, it's humans, plants, machinery, all that sort of stuff. Often I see photos that have trees in them, and the top part of the tree is included. There's no context there. You've got no idea how tall it is, how big it is, you know, where that's set, anything like that. You know, if you're gonna, you know, if you need to focus on the person behind it, don't include the whole thing, you know, just include a bit behind them. I've put an example there, and that's a contractor. Obviously, I think at the time the message was, you know, innovative, entrepreneurial bloke, you know, embracing things. He really loved his job fundamentally, and he does. And, you know, he's busy. Like, he was flat out. I followed him around taking notes and all that sort of thing. But to me, I wanted pictures that said, I'm busy, you know, I'm busy going about my stuff. So, you know, he's getting into a tractor, so he's doing something. He's giving us a smile, he's engaging. But also there's, you know, I could have, well, I did contemplate chopping it off, so all you saw was the pole that he was holding onto, so that we could get closer to him, and you wouldn't have seen much of the door that was swung open in the back. But really, without that, there's no context. Now, obviously, on the other side of things, if we'd included the whole tractor, we wouldn't have seen his face. So when you're chopping and cropping and that sort of thing, just keep in mind, you know, you need something in the background so that you've still got your context, but, you know, you need to make sure that the person on the talent or whatever it is the main element. Another tip I like using, I tell everybody, and I use it all the time when I'm taking photographs for headshots for businesses, is that green is pretty much everybody's friend. So if you, back to my background points of having clean, clear, and messy, find a hedge, find a tree. If all else fails, you know, particularly if you're doing a fun shot, you can use the grass as a background. Green tends to work with most people, and gives the impression that you're outside, clean, green, all those sorts of things. And if you don't have a background, or you've got a really super busy background and it's going to distract from the talent, or like I said at the start, there's a background of something that perhaps you can't identify for whatever reason that is, you know, go to the side of a shed, a plain wall. You can use the sky. You can always, you know, look up with your camera, you know, take a photo of someone looking down and we can see in the background is the sky. Just think about, okay, where can I get this person to stand that's outside of a busy area or busy whatever's happening. This is, well, I called it a public service announcement, but agriculture loves the squatting farmer. And a few years ago, there was a parody, I think it was a social media account called The Squatting Farmer. So had pictures of squatting farmers from all over the country. Squatting farmer takes away quite a lot of context. It also, not everybody's comfortable squatting as well, and sometimes that comes across in their face and how willing they are to work with you and that sort of stuff. Also, it's not a flattering pose by any stretch of the imagination, and it also takes away context. The best example I'm going to use is, I'm sure a lot of people have seen it, when you have a bull sale. You know, the bull's in the background, and then you get everybody associated, every Tom, Dick and Harry associated with the bull squatting along the front of the picture. Okay, so you've got heaps of people in a picture that probably don't all necessarily need to be there, but B, you've got no idea of the size and scale and all that sort of the bull, size of the bull, and sometimes people look quite uncomfortable squatting, and, you know, who goes into the paddock and squats fundamentally? So I know what you're thinking, you know, you can't always get really close to a bull and that sort of stuff, but, you know, what's stopping people standing in that same position and maybe putting the bull to the side and standing onto the side, that sort of thing. Squatting just takes everything out of context. And same if you're being photographed for something quite small. So, it's, you know, replace the bull with a ram. Like, you know, rams are shorter, obviously, stature, but, you know, you can lean, you can actually sit on something. Like many times, you know, you've got the side of a trough or, you know, upturned bucket or whatever you've got going there. And, you know, some people use the ground too. You can, if your talent is able to get up and down quite easily, you know, sit on your bum on the ground, don't squat. You know, you've got those sorts of options. And also photographing horticulture. People tend to squat next to produce. If the story is about the produce, pick a couple, hold them up to the camera. You know, it's about the produce, not so much about it being in the ground. You know, you can stand in front of it. You've still got the context. You can shoot from above. You've got the green behind you, whatever. If it's, I've seen this work quite well if you're in a vineyard and it's about the person more so than the grapes or the season or whatever. You get them to, you know, to sit, lean up against, you know, a post. They're framed by the vines, and just get them to sit there, and you've got the nice plain background, and you can see what the context is. Okay, tips for paddock shots and poor light. Alfoil really comes into its own when you're taking photographs in paddocks. I'll get to that in a second, but we'll start off with no sunglasses. People, when they've got dark glasses on, can look a little bit like Australia's Most Wanted. I know everybody loves to stand outside in their sunglasses, me included, but if you could please, you know, you want to be able to recognise the people. The whole point of them being in a photograph is that you can see them, you can see their eyes, you can see their face, you can engage with them. Just ask the people really nicely, you know, can you just take the sunnies off for a couple of shots, put them on, you know, in between, and then change positions, all that sort of thing. The same goes with hats. You know, often people pull their hats right down over their eyes. You know, then you can't see sort of from their nose upwards or even sometimes from their mouth upwards because of the shadow. You know, ask them to tip their hat back a bit, or you can ask them to take their hat off. Now, for everybody who's wondering about hat hair, that really is a real issue. So people don't like taking their hat off or whatever, but if you can tip them back a little bit, you've got that face, okay? If they don't want to do any of those things, go right up into their face, okay? Then that way you're not getting any shadows, in the way they're not going to be able to see them in the photo. Which brings me to light and shade. So get of someone, either pick being total light, total shade, not half and half, and take heaps of practice shots beforehand. So that way you're going to know what it's going to look like. So, you know, is it going to work? And look back at it on your phone. Oh, I can't quite see, or, you know, half their face is cut off by a shadow. Okay, can you just move slightly here? Or I'm going to go on top of you, or I'm going to go beneath you, or whatever. And this is where the alfoil comes in. And I got told this trick quite a long time ago because in paddocks, as a lot of you would know, people with hats on, you get to come back and you've got a picture and they've got a shaded face. So what I carry around with me in my actual camera bag is alfoil on a piece of cardboard, sort of, I don't know, 60 centimetres wide by about the same high. And I fold it up and I unfold it in front of the talent. And so say they're in the paddock and it's a super hot day, like we're talking 30 plus, real banging down sun, middle of the day, can't get away from taking the photographs. I get them to put it, say, on the top of the bale or on the bonnet of the ute or whatever, and it reflects the sun up into their face. Like, it's basically a poor person's reflector. Photographers carry them around and they reflect the light or the flash, bounce it onto people or into areas or whatever. Works quite well, and it's sort of a DIY thing that you can do from home, just to get that little bit of light on their face, if possible. Okay, to crop or not to crop. I touched a little bit on this before in terms of keeping the context, but a lot of people crop shots to make sure that the person is the main image, which is fine. I cropped this picture, and then when I saw it in the newsletter that I took it for and wrote something for, it was actually printed as is. And the reason they gave me, not that I mind, I don't really care, but the reason they gave me is because they wanted to put the context in. So, and they also thought that the quality of the picture, because it was on an iPhone, wasn't as high when it was cropped. So just keep those in mind when you're making decisions, sort of what's in your background, what you want to promote. And if you want to give people an impression of what was, you know, where it was, all that sort of thing. Reviewing photographs. Okay, so this is just a quick checklist. I know we're getting close to time and I'm sorry about that, the technical difficulties, but the main thing is, are they in focus? So the best way I can describe that to look for is if there's soft areas in a picture, sort of blurry, sort of, if you were to describe it, it would look like it was soft. And sometimes that's if someone's moving their hand or, you know, moving their arm or whatever, any sort of movement, sometimes you'll get that soft area will be in the movement phase. And it's basically, it's just not in focus, okay? So this is why it's important to take lots and lots and lots and lots, because, you know, you might have a lot, but they might not all be in focus. They might not all be right to use. Now, just like when you write a story or you lay out a page or whatever you do, you put out a social media post, you've got to look at the whole thing in context when you get back home or back to work on your computer. Is there something at the time you didn't see when you flipped back through it on your phone? It'll come up on your computer, okay? So look at every part of your picture, you know, what's going on, all that sort of thing. Which way is your talent facing? Now, this is, if you had to be super duper picky, I would take this into consideration, but for those of you who still do a physical newsletter, if you're doing a sort of an article or a flyer or whatever, and the person in the picture is facing away from the text, just happens to be one way, people are going to look away from the text, okay? So just something to keep in mind, if you're going to do pictures of people on both to the side or whatever, take them to both sides, and then you've got some options so the talent can face into the text or into the text box or whatever it is you're using it with. And again, I can't stress enough variety. What other pictures, you know, you might have done 4 social media posts this week. What are the other images you used? Don't use the same sort of images. Mix it up a bit. This is where your variety comes in. Same as newsletter. You don't want people to scroll down your e-newsletter and see all the same sort of photographs. So I've got a little bit of homework if people want to have a crack at photos. You'll get these on your email, the instructions and the key slides that will help you. But fundamentally, I'm hoping everybody will have some sort of milk at home to do this exercise. But you're going to sell milk, okay? And I want you to think about how you're going to photograph it, but in terms of what story do you want to tell about the milk? So, you know, it's the same principles apply if you were to pop this picture of the milk on social media, or if you were to pop the picture of the milk in a newsletter, or if you were to even just send the picture of a milk out to a client because you were promoting milk, because you love milk and you want them to drink milk. What story do you want to tell about them? It'd be great if I could have 3 images, okay? Giving you a big hint on the screen, okay? But if you could keep in mind when you're doing it, the key things, variety, faces help, okay? So variety means you don't have to put a face in everyone, but they do help. They can be your key pictures. Context, where is this milk being used? Who's using it? Why is it being used? Movement. Now, there's an example of movement up on the screen. And yes, it's weird. It's hard to get movement in milk, but you'll be surprised how you can make things work. Because you can get things to do things. It's about doing something. And again, keep it together. So, you know, you have to take a photo of a carton, you know, don't put the carton on the ground and the person up the top, that sort of thing. You want the eyes to go to the same place roughly within context. So that's all the smartphone photography. And I guess if anybody has any questions about that, I can address them quickly now before I just go into the extra bit from following a query from the last session. Anybody have any questions?
Just unmute yourselves if you have got any questions, please, and Simone will be able to address them. I think we're all good.
All good. All right, this is the last and final thing that I wanted to address. After the first workshop, I had a query about explaining complex concepts, something that may be really, really hard for someone to get. And, how would you explain a really difficult product, difficult thing to an audience that may not know it? Well, a couple of points here. Communication, I just want everybody to keep this in context. The communication is just part of a business plan. It is not the entire business plan. It is a tool in what is otherwise a toolbox. And one piece of communication very rarely stands alone. Like, a press release might be accompanied by, newsletters. It might be accompanied by social media posts. You might have a video. You could have done an interview with a local paper. There's all sorts of things in your toolbox. And that's without, considering if you're salespeople or if that's the business you're in, or the people that work for you going out and talking to people. Like, it's not your communication isn't your silver bullet. It's there to help you, and it's something that needs to be worked on slowly. It's a slow burn getting this stuff across. If you have something that's you find really people don't understand, or you find it really difficult to communicate, I would like you to have a go at what I call a Q&A. So I use this communication approach, and I've used it recently with changes in law and policy when I've had to communicate those things. Basically when contracts go from 2 pages to 52 pages, that can seem quite daunting. So the way I get the Q&A is I listen. So what I often do is I go in on businesses meetings and I listen to all the questions and listen to the answers. And I've just put them on a 1-pager Q&A, but the answers have to be no longer than three lines. If you can't get the questions, you keep a bank of them in your mind. Okay, so what have people asked me? What have clients asked me? Okay, and you address them. Q&A, boom, 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 simple answers. The good thing about a Q&A is people will scan it and look for their questions. Also, nobody feels alienated because they've realised that you've issued a Q&A because perhaps it is a tricky topic and you didn't quite get it from that social media post, so you're seeking a little bit more information. It's also something that can be attached to a media release, newsletter article. It can be sent out to prospective clients, perhaps who ring up. It's a really great way to bridge those complex topics, issues. Images work really well with this, and that's why it's important to have a variety. So, for example, if you were laying a pipe or something like that, and there was some technical requirements with that, you can take photographs at each stage. Send that out to people and the steps. Some people are super visual. Then the other thing is you pick one element of your product, issue, whatever, and just focus on that. You could do, say, however many numbers of bits of communication just on that one issue, that one tiny thing. So say it was fertilizer, and this new whiz bang fertilizer, and it was included, had all these different ingredients. You might focus on one ingredient and how that helps and why that's been introduced into the fertilizer, okay, for a few things. But you would have to obviously state that it's part of a larger group of ingredients, but just focus on one thing, makes it simple, introduces the idea, introduces the concept. Remember, this is just a tool in a toolbox. The other thing is, and I do this all the time, this is pretty much just what my job is, you tell the story of a complex issue through a person. So I do a lot of genetics work, livestock genetics, and there's only so much time, no offense to anyone, scientists, that pig farmers are going to listen to scientists talk about genetics and the discoveries and that sort of thing. They want to know what it's like on that person's farm. So, the person who you use to profile to explain the concept, the issue, the product, whatever it is, they might not say it exactly how you want it. They might not use the most perfect words. They might not even focus on the exact issue that you want them to. Yes, you can direct them with your questioning and that sort of thing. But fundamentally, they're a genuine testimonial for your business. They use it. It works for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be happy generally talking about it. And it's a way to introduce something that others perhaps may not understand or may not even be aware of to a broader audience, okay? So I hope that helps for anybody that queried that sort of thing. So yeah, with wrap up, we covered a lot of ground. I hope people got some stuff out of it. Remember, you can give me a buzz, or it's probably better to send me an email, to be honest, next week or so with any queries. But yeah, if you want to do the homework, it'd be great if you can get it to me by next Tuesday, because then I can give you some feedback. And yes, like writing, photography is very subjective. So, you know, please don't take mine as the be all and end all. Mine's pretty much, my feedback will be just tried and tested on what I know gets published. So if anybody else has any questions.
Thanks, Simone. Can I just get you to stop sharing your screen, please? And we will just have a quick chat before we all leave. Can I get you to all to turn your cameras back on as well, please, if you've got enough reception and the internet's all good? Thanks, everybody. So again, Simone said, if you want to complete the homework, I would strongly suggest that you actually do. Sorry, I've just told you all to turn your cameras on, and I haven't turned my own on. So here we go. Simone said, if you want to do the homework, I'd strongly suggest you actually do the homework, because it will help you. So please get that back to Simone by next Tuesday. We'll send an email out with the recording of today's sessions and the slides, and also a reminder about the homework as well. Now, what I didn't do last time was I didn't send you guys through a calendar invite for the session. Just pop your hand up for me if you'd like me to send you the calendar invite for next session, so it's automatically put in. Yeah, sorry, oversight on our behalf. Can I get you to unmute yourself and tell Simone what other questions you've got, or ask Simone other questions that you've got, please? No, nobody? That's good. You've covered it all. Darren's got a question.
I'll go, Meg. I think we touched on it earlier in Simone in planning and measuring, where people mentioned Hootsuite and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And overall, I look after several products across several sectors, and I find it enormously challenging. I could do that full time without even getting to the point of taking a photograph or writing anything. I'm in desperate need to try and create some type of template.
As in to record the measurements, or as in just manage the time, sorry?
A planning template more so.
Oh, okay. So as in terms of media planning, is that what you mean?
Yes, yes.
Okay, radio, I get ya. So
it may be a bit more rhetorical than looking for an answer right now. This is something on top of your mind.
I can give you a super quick answer, or I can address an answer in a phone call or something after if you want. Yeah, the super duper quick answer is if you're struggling to manage your time in terms of media, marketing, social media and all that sort of stuff, go to where you get the biggest bang for your buck and plan and do that really well. I get that question all the time, and people try to spread themselves really thin across all sorts of other things. Work out where your best bang for your buck is and just hammer in on that while you're short of time. But happy to have a chat with you about that after.
Okay.
Simone, in terms of a planner, I've looked at lots of different ones, and I must confess I don't use one myself, but the best one I've seen was one that someone knocked up on an Excel spreadsheet, to be honest. It's simple and easy, and you can customize it to what you want, and it's just, you know, a week or a month or whatever at a time. Here's your various platforms, and this is what I'm posting and when.
Thanks, David. I do, part of my business, I do a lot of content creation for different organisations and things. And so they actually have a marketing manager or media manager, and they send me their strategy, their plan in the space in what is always, never seen it any other way. I know there's professional tools out there, but they always send it in an Excel spreadsheet. And, you know, they justify why they want it done for these different people, and, you know, how they generally come up with how it's done. But yeah, because the justification is because that's the biggest bang for their buck. So Excel spreadsheets, they are super handy in that respect.
Yeah.
Simone, I'm just wondering, I think that that is a really important thing for us to all have in our social media marketing. I'm wondering if you might have an example that you could share with the group of a social media strategy that you've used or that somebody else that you work with has used that you could just send around as kind of an example to the group with the slides. You can, it doesn't have to have identifying information or anything, but yeah.
Yeah, I have one that I work for which is a really, I often think it's over the top, but it's the way my client likes to do it. They've done it for umpteen years and it gets results. And I can use that. I'll take out the identifying stuff. In the next workshop, we're doing all the what I call tiddly bits about dealing with the media. So everything from interviews to managing it, to market, to creating a database, contacts, how to deal with stuff after an event, the follow-ups, the better bang for your buck. So, if you come down to our event or you come to this, whatever else I can provide with you as well. So all those tiny little things are going to be addressed next. So but what I'll do is I will take one of them, take all the identifying things out and use it as an example. And it purely is just all time, media outlets, social, interviews, talent, when they're available, all in a spreadsheet.
Yep.
Thank you. That'll be great. Questions or comments from anybody else before we wind up? Just unmute yourselves if you have. Looks like you're all good. So thank you very much, everybody. Been great to have you on again. Sorry, we've gone a little bit over time. That was our technical difficulties, but thank you for sticking around. I was going to run a poll, but there's only a few of you left, so I'm actually not going to worry about it. Now I might just send that out to you separately. If you could just get back to me, that'd be great. So thanks again, Simone, and we will see you all in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, guys.